Hello, everyone. This is my aging interview presentation. I interviewed my grandpa, and his name is Mr. Jerry Emmons. He is 78 years old, about to be 79 here in July, and he lives out in Mount Washington, Kentucky. He's a proud Vietnam vet, and he worked for the U.S. Postal Service for over 30 years, so kind of government jobs. And yeah, he was in Vietnam because he got drafted, but this is kind of his story through the lens of human development. So when we look at the life course perspective, when it comes to Jerry's story, we see how broader historical influences pretty much had a major impact on his development. He came of age during the Vietnam War, and initially he was getting drafted, and what kind of happened there is they didn't want to go into combat, so him and a couple of his friends in his neighborhood, they got drafted, and instead of getting drafted, they joined the dental corps with the army, and then they actually went and did 18 months to 2 years ish over in Vietnam, but they did it within the dental corps. So they helped out, did their mission, they're prideful about it, but they didn't actually go into combat. So the experience of the war, that kind of gave him a structured identity at the time when he didn't really have a strong sense of purpose. He was kind of working a dead-end job, didn't really know what he was doing. He was with my grandma, but the war kind of is what he credits what turned him into a man and kind of shaped a lot of his worldviews today. So when he got back from Vietnam, he got married and began to have children quickly. And this kind of shows the timing of the life transitions, like early parenthood and early workforce entry. And, you know, the job that they went into when they were young and going into Vietnam, that's a big job for a young man. But the early parenthood and early workforce entry right after the war, that kind of limited his options for upward mobility. He took a few college classes and ended up never getting a degree, and that was kind of one of the things that he regrets. His life course also demonstrates how development is shaped by linked and interdependent lives. His identity has been largely built around being a husband, a father, now a grandfather, and a great-grandfather. He's got 2 great-grandchildren now. My older brother has 2 kids. The close relationships that he has with his daughters and grandchildren provided the emotional cushion he kind of needed after losing his wife. That's been almost 20 years now at this point, and he's still not over that, and he uses the family as a crutch, and we talk about her often. Since family support became like a major protective factor for him as he aged, and he's sharp mentally now, but he's kind of starting to lose it a little bit. And the family is kind of really all he has right now, and we do our best to keep him in safe, at least. So he also shows human agency, especially after retirement. And so he got really depressed after my grandma passed, and he kind of took initiative by volunteering around the church, and then he started his own business that is actually pretty successful, and it's funny. It's a karaoke business, which he just likes doing karaoke, and his name's Jerry. So the business is called Jerryoke, which I personally think is hilarious. And then when he started that business, it kind of gave him renewed purpose, routine, and social interaction. Like, he is always out doing karaoke somewhere, and he's got this big competition coming up that he's really excited for. He's going to like 3 different bars to do karaoke, and if he makes it past the first 2, he gets to the last one. It's fun. But his story kind of illustrates the interaction of developmental risks and protections. So losing a spouse, that's a major late life risk factor. And he was buffered by financial stability, a strong support system, and meaningful routines that helped him maintain psychological well-being. Altogether, his life kind of shows how personal development is tied to history, relationships, and our ability to adapt whenever it comes to change. So when we look at Erickson's theories in practice, when it comes to the generativity versus stagnation, that was pretty much resolved early on, and not really by choice. It was kind of, he just got drafted into the army, and well, drafted and then joined, so he had to grow up very, very quickly. And then after that, the family and the career kind of just came after. I think early on he got in that work flow state, and that's kind of what influenced my parents and how they were raised, and what influenced me as well. So you work hard, and that's just what you do. It's what you have to do. He's currently in the integrity versus despair stage, and I think he's very proud of his family, his work ethic, his life that he built for himself. But he's always kind of thinking that like he could have done something different, could have made some more money. When in reality, he's nearing the end of his life, and all the stuff that he was worried about because he grew up extremely poor is all pretty much tied to money, and he's never really enjoys it for himself. Uh, when it comes to regrets, one of the big things that he said would be not finishing college. So he did a handful of classes and never ended up getting a formal degree, and that was kind of in part due to Vietnam, then immediately going back to work. But the more that he progressed in his career with the Postal Service, he kind of saw like if I would have had the degree, his earnings would have tripled over the course of his career. His pension would have been better, and he's doing fine now. Like his house is paid off. He has plenty of money in his bank account. Like our families are doing fine. No one's worried about getting anything in the will or whatever besides one aunt. But other than that, like he did great for himself, and he's just kind of personally dealing with stuff that he could have done different. So, kind of reflecting on this whole interview, kind of the main points that we pull out of this is aging involves resilience, not just decline. Generational values are shaped by survival, and listening is more important than correcting. Uh, Basically, kind of how I see it is who he is because of all the sum total of all the events that have happened in his life. And he can be out there sometimes, and as his family, that's stuff that we have to watch. But we've also kind of hit a point at the family where it's like, he's so set in his beliefs that it's not really something that we can change. Like we probably could if we went out and put a lot of work on him, but it's stuff that he doesn't really want to do. But overall, I'd say he lived a good life. He always worked hard. He adapted to whatever situation came about, and at the end of the day, he was a man who just wanted to provide for his family, and he took great care of his wife, my mom, her two sisters, and he allowed all of them to go out and have an extraordinary life by busting his. So, kind of what this means for practice is, for me, this experience taught me a lot about how to work with older adults. I haven't really worked with older adults outside of a substance abuse setting, and in those settings, age is, not really like crazy different because everybody has a problem with drugs or alcohol. But talking to a person that was older that does not have a substance abuse problem, just trying to get their side on depression and life in general, it was an eye-opening experience, and it reinforced how important cultural humility is. We're not always going to agree with our clients and everything they say, and that's okay. And we don't have to fix their belief on the world because it's their belief and they're allowed to have it. What matters really is kind of respecting their autonomy and understanding their grief, helping them stay connected to the things that give them purpose. And for people like my grandpa, he doesn't need fixing per se. He needs dignity and support, and just like we do anyone else. That's all humans really need, is that connection.